Metathesis and assimilation in the Hithpael. Okay, what in the world is metathesis and assimilation in the Hithpael? What happens in the Hithpael is that when you add the hit prefix, hit or yet or mit, any of these big prefixes here, mit, whatever, this tav, which is really an infix, right? This is your normal prefix, or at least these ones are. This is really an infix. When you add these prefixes to a word, sometimes you can get some phonetic things happening, some phonetic changes. And what will happen is one of two things, one or both of two things. The first is metathesis. Metathesis just means switching places. So if you have a letter here, if you have metathesis, then the tav will switch places with this first letter. Assimilation is where a letter becomes like another letter. So a tav becomes like its neighboring letter or some other letter. Now, if you look at Ross section 29.2, chapter 29, section 2, he deals with this. But I have to say, I find the discussion very confusing. So I've sat down, looked at other books, looked at this one, and this, I think, is what he's trying to say. He first of all, or in the middle of it, he divides up all his letters. These sorts of things, metathesis and assimilation, these phonetic transpositions that happen, they happen to some sibilants and dentals. So he outlines what they are, and he groups them by voiced, unvoiced, and emphatic. So let me write that down here. Under sibilants, we have zayin. Zayin is our voiced sibilant. Okay, so when you say this, you use your voice, z. Compare that with the three unvoiced sibilants, and they are samech, sin, and sheen. These do not use, I'll just put a line here so it's clear, we're talking unvoiced here. These do not use your voice box, s, s, and sh. Okay, s, s, and sh. You can whisper these. You have a hard time whispering a zayin. If you try to whisper z sound, it'll come out much like this. Z. I just try it and you'll see what I mean. On the dental side, the voiced dental is dalet. Okay, duh. You're using your voice box. And the unvoiced is tav, t. So t versus d. And then he has two more. The emphatic is, oh, that's not a good sade, is it? Sade is the emphatic, and tate. Now, for most of us, probably we pronounce the tate and the tav the same. I do anyway. But this is technically a emphatic. So probably at one point they pronounced these things a little differently. Okay, this is how he organizes his sibilants and dentals. Now, the thing that we need to pay attention to for this unit here, this metathesis and assimilation Hithpael, is the following, and let me just switch my colors. We'll pick green. With the unvoiced sibilants, so these ones here, we get metathesis. Okay? And I'll give examples of this. Well, I'll just show you the examples that he has in his textbook. With this, you get metathesis. With these ones, all the dentals, you get assimilation. Okay, so your tav of your hit or your yit will assimilate to the delta or the tav or the tate. It'll just become a dagesh. Here, the tav will switch with the samech. So instead of tav samech, you'll get samech tav, or instead of tav sheen, you'll get sheen tav. I'll show you an example. And thirdly, the third set is this one, and this is the one that's a bit tricky, because, well, not tricky, but it's a little bit more involved, because both things happen. You get metathesis, the tav will switch with the tzade, and you'll get assimilation. And what the assimilation is that your tav, the tav of your hit or yit or mit, becomes a tate. Okay? So this is the thing you need to remember, because this has a two-step process to it. Maybe I should write assimilation here. So these ones only metathesize, dentals assimilate, but the emphatic tzade both metathesizes, it switches, and it assimilates, and the assimilation is tav going to tate. Okay, let me change my color back, and we will look at some examples, so one example each. So with our unvoiced, these ones here, unvoiced sibilants, we get metathesis. So what's an example of that? Well, if we wanted to put shamar into the Hithpael, we would say, okay, oops, hey, right? So hit, and then we write our sheen. What am I doing here? We write our sheen, sha, hit shamer. Okay, that's a reach. Having a hard time with my Hebrew penmanship here. Now, what happens is, if you go back here, we get metathesis, right? It switches. So we just switch these two. So we have, instead of hit, we have hish. Hish, and then we have the tav. Hish, ta, hish tamer. So instead of hit shamer, we have hish tamer. These two are switched. And it's simply because it's easier to say. Hish tamer is easier than hit shamer, because it stops, right? I mean, you can just sort of say it and see why it's easier. So that is the first thing is metathesis with the unvoiced sibilants. So s, and sh, samach, sin, and sheen. Okay. The second thing, we'll look at this one here. With dentals, we get assimilation, where the tav will simply assimilate to the delta, not delta, the dalet, the tav, or the tate. And he gives an example. We'll call this number 2. This will daber. We use daber and we'll put it into the participle. So let's say we wanted to have a Hithpael participle. We would write mit, right? So there's our infix there, and the whole thing is our prefix. You could call it that. And let's put daber on there. So this is now dagesh lene, right? This is a closed syllable. This is not a vocalic shava. This is a silent shava. So our dagesh lene, because this is the begat kafat letter, will stay there. So mit, da, ber. Okay. Now, what happens is assimilation, no metathesis. So this does not switch. This just becomes this. And so we end up with mi, da, midaber. Instead of mit daber, which is harder to say, you can hear it. Mit daber, midaber. So this just gone to midaber. Now it looks like we have the same dot here, but this dot in fact is a dagesh forte. This is the tav that has assimilated. And we know it can't be dagesh lene because there's a vowel preceding it. And any vowel, even the smallest of vowels, the silent or the vocal shava, will cause dagesh lene to run away. So we know this is dagesh forte, and that is our assimilated tav. No metathesis, just assimilation. The last case, this is the one that's a bit more involved, is when we have the emphatic tzade. Okay, that's this here. When our word starts with the emphatic tzade and we want to put it into a Hithpael, we're going to put this hit, yit, mit, or whatever on the front. You're going to get metathesis. The tav is going to switch with the tzade, and the tav is going to change into a tate. That's assimilation. We need to call that assimilation. So we have a two-step process here. So let's start. We have hit. Which one are we doing here? Tzaddik. Okay, to be righteous. Hit, tza, hit tzaddik. So we're going to get these two switching. So let's do that. So we have hits, ta, dake. Hithpael. Now I guess we need our dagesh lene there because this is a closed syllable. Now this form doesn't actually exist, you understand. Neither of these forms exist. This is just how you would build it if you wanted to follow the rules. So the first thing here is we have this switch going on, tav and sade, and then the second thing is assimilation. And what happens is the tate becomes, or the tav becomes a tate. It doesn't assimilate to this. It assimilates to something similar. So let's write that down. So we get, if I can write my sades, we have hits, ta, dake. Now I don't know if I did that right. Let me just check. Now, why did I put that there? This is not a Begad Kafat letter, and we don't have a dagesh forte there, so we don't need that. Okay, so we have we have metathesis. These two switch. That's this process here, metathesis. And then we have assimilation. That's what's happening in this last step here. So, what would I learn? Well, the first thing, I guess, is just to recognize that you have some phonetic transpositions, some phonetic activity happening here with a Hithpael, because you have a tav against these letters, which are difficult to pronounce together in that order. So in some you get metathesis, in some you get assimilation, and in some you get both. And what they are is the unvoiced, you get metathesis. So if you just think of something like this here, shamer, hishamer, or hit shamer, hishtamer, if you learn one of them, an example for each, then you'll probably have it down. Assimilation here, tav just becomes the dalet, the tav or the tate, and this is the one that you really want to pay attention to because you have metathesis, but you also have this tav going to tate, which is a bit odd. So if you saw this form, because this is what you would see in a text, then you may say, okay, what is this? First of all, you have to recognize this is a Hithpael, even though it has a tzade there, and not the tav like you would expect. Secondly, you'd have to recognize that you're not going to find this in the dictionary under tate, because this is not the root. The root starts with tav. So it is kind of important to know this if you want to look this word up. Otherwise, you'll have no idea what this thing is. So there you have it, assimilation or metathesis, and assimilation in the Hithpael. Think about it this way, with this grid. 3 sets. Metathesis over here, assimilation here, and both of them here with tav going to tate.